Shadow football. This is a historic day for the Shadow Football channel, because this is the first match analysis video I'm making where the final result was a draw. I know what you're thinking, you're happy to be a part of YouTube history right here. But in all seriousness, if you're a Villa fan, you'd be overjoyed at how they thwarted the Arsenal attack and how they managed to find a well-deserved equalizer. But if you're an Arsenal fan, this was a lackluster performance, and it definitely feels like 2 points lost rather than 1 point earned. So, how did this game play out? What did Villa do well? How did Arsenal let their lead slip? Or rather, why couldn't Arsenal add on to their early lead? And how did... Hang on, this is the first video where I'm talking about Aston Villa actually. So, welcome to 2 moments of YouTube history. Renee Slechers kept her 4-2-3-1 shape, as Natalia Arroyo also kept her 3-4-1-2 shape for her side. Yeah, those are the formations. Anyways, let's just get the first goal out of the way. Delonte has the ball here, and you know what really grinds my gears about teams not called Barcelona? If you don't have the quality to play out from the back, don't insist on playing out from the back. Delonte has a perfectly good option to play the ball to Maltby out wide, but decides to play a very dangerous ball to Missy Kearns where she's under the pressure of Mariona Caldente and Beth Mead. She tries to play a first-time ball to my new favourite player Lucia Charlotte Kendall, who I'll get to later, instead of taking a touch backwards and finding Lynn Wilms. Caldente cuts the ball out, the ball falls to Frida Leon Hudson-Mornham, and Arsenal take a 1-0 lead gifted to them by Aston Villa. Now, Villa did learn from this after they conceded, so Sabrina D'Angelo just kept booting the ball long and avoiding that whole fiasco of a situation from ever happening again. Oh, just a quick note for Fabio Capello, this woman is called Sabrina, not this one. Going into this game, Arsenal had scored 9 goals in their previous 3 games in the WSL this season, which means their expected goals heading into this game was this. Everyone was expecting the pitch of the Emirates to be watered with the tears of Aston Villa fans, but in fact, it was the tears of their own. So, Arsenal attacked like this, the build-up lopsided, with Katie McCabe pushing higher up. Kim Little is the deeper of the 2 midfielders and drops back to direct and dictate. The idea of building up lopsided is to outnumber the opposition press. Since Villa lined up with 2 strikers, having McCabe push higher up is fine, as Arsenal still have 3 defenders against Villa's 2 strikers, which in theory would still allow them to play through the Villa press as they have a player extra. But what Arsenal didn't expect was a young, talented player making her WSL debut, Rachel Maltby. In order for her team not to be outnumbered up front, Maltby would regularly shoot forward from the left wing-back position, joining a daily dose of salmon up front to form a trident to press the Arsenal back line. What Aston Villa did to nullify the Arsenal build-up was just to number up with the Gunners, essentially marking player for player and not letting any Arsenal player that touches the ball any time and space. Villa defended high up, regularly looking to put pressure, and they did a great job suffocating the Arsenal build-up. In this situation where the build-up isn't necessarily going your way, Arsenal have another option to bring the ball out from the back, and that is to pump it long to Alessia Russo. Arsenal, and England as well, use Russo as an out ball. She has an exceptional first touch and is able to turn away from Anna Patten and drive up the pitch. The cross was of decent quality, but it wasn't necessarily the best decision since she had acres of space to drive up the pitch and commit Lynn Wilms before passing it to Mead. Arsenal needed Russo's incredible hold-up play to dig themselves out of their own half pretty often this game. So much so that I heard Alessia Russo was described as a chick magnet, and that chick is Anna Patten. Patten followed Russo everywhere she went, always trying to disrupt her. It was an amazing battle between Patten and Russo, as Patten regularly managed to put a foot in and successfully rattled the Arsenal rhythm throughout the game. Russo did manage to hold on to the ball a few times though, this time with Anna Patten nowhere to be found, dragging her team up the pitch. However, this presented a huge problem for Arsenal. Russo had to leave her central position to hold the ball up out wide, and so she's off screen over here. The problem is that no one is filling in as the number 9 now. I'm looking at Mornham over here to make a run into this space, because since Smith has held her width out wide really well, a run into this space means Delonte will have to make a decision on who to mark, and this is very likely a goal if either Mornham or Smith get the ball. Mornham doesn't make the run, McCabe overhits a ball to Russo and it comes to nothing. Now I understand the sentiment of, Arsenal should have played better, they lacked urgency, whatnot. But bear in mind, Aston Villa are playing in this game as well. And they're trying to stop them. And stop them, they did. Very incredibly well. Each Arsenal player has a Villa defender right next to them, which makes it a tough decision for the ball carrier to decide on who to pass to. If the Arsenal players don't move, then it's honestly very easy for Villa to defend. Villa were disciplined in their defence, constantly communicating with each other about who's going to mark who, and Arsenal didn't know how to break down this hard-working Villa team. Villa know Arsenal like to play small, intricate combinations in the final third, so they just made sure everyone had someone to follow. And they made sure if Arsenal ever tried any of these little combinations, that they wouldn't come off. Arsenal are a team that exploits space, rather than create it themselves, but if there isn't any space to exploit, that's where Arsenal have trouble attacking. Even if there are half gaps like this one, Monum not realizing there is a disconnect between Wilms and Patton, she moves towards the ball asking for it, but I guarantee you, if she ran into this space, she would have gotten the ball. So if you're Arsenal at this point, you've got to be asking yourself, how do we break this team down? Passing around or through this Villa team isn't working due to how well drilled they are, so Kim does a little dribbling and gets past Missy Kearns. This is what Arsenal need to do. Rely on individual brilliance to dribble past a Villa defender. Someone needs to do something. Little does this something, and Patton flies up to produce a magnificent block. This was pretty much the only time during the game when Arsenal actually dribbled past a Villa player in the final third. But if we look at this again here, if I'm Katie McCabe, I would be attacking the space here, and then looking to cross the ball in, but she just stands there as Little only has one option, which is to shoot. I spoke briefly about how no one would fill in for Russo if she was out of position, and I have to confess, I lied. There was one person which the best chances fell to in the most dangerous positions, and the really unfortunate thing for Arsenal was that those chances fell to Emily Fox. Arsenal do well to build up, constantly moving and dragging Villa players out of position, but since every Arsenal forward felt left out in this build-up and wanted to touch the ball, Foxy ended up as the player in the number 9 position. If this was any of the attacking players, they would have taken a touch this way and taken a shot, but the flawless skincare of Foxy decided to lay it off to Russo as she shoots the ball straight at Sabrina D'Angelo. The one in the second half was an even better chance, as Fox starts off with absolutely no Villa defender near her, so no one tracks her run as she makes her way into the box. Her touch is a bit heavy, but take nothing away from Lynn Wilms as she makes a stunning block to keep Villa in the game. This was a massive defensive performance from Natalia Arroyo's Aston Villa. Them as a team were very disciplined, very organized, and extremely hardworking. Each player as individuals also produced extraordinary defensive performances. If you open up a dictionary and look up the word solid, you'll actually see a photo of Anna Patton. She was immense during this game. Her challenges were well timed, her positioning in her own box was spot on every single time, and as a defensive player myself, I loved watching Anna Patton this game. Lynn Wilms also had a great game, constantly making brave challenges and kept Beth Mead and Mick Ford relatively quiet on her side. Missy Kearns had a great game as well. She never stopped running and she looked like she could still run a marathon after this game. A really energetic performance as she constantly pressed from midfield and did a great job suffocating Arsenal up high. Chastity Grant did a good job of shutting down Katie McCabe, tracking back and putting in good strong challenges, whilst Kirsty Hansen provided Villa with some much needed direct running and stretched the Arsenal defence in the second half. But I really want to talk about Lucia Kendall. She was so good. Her defensive positioning as a 6 was excellent. She knew when to hold her position, when to go higher up and press, and when to dive into a challenge. Moments like this one, it's such a simple interception, but this is a great read to spot that this was McCabe's only forward passing option. She looked composed on the ball, never losing it, and did a great job directing the focus of the Villa attack and providing her team with forward passes to keep the attacking momentum going. One thing I will point out about her game is that her defensive positioning in and around the box is incredible. Recognizing that Patton has been dragged out of position by Russo, Kendall knows that she has to fill in as the centre half as Smith drives forward with the ball. DeLong does a good job forcing Smith out wide, and Kendall is positioned perfectly in the box to clear the ball away. As Arsenal attack down the right wing through Caldente, Kendall does a great job tracking back on the edge of the box, puts pressure on Ford, and wins the ball. You'd be surprised how many holding midfielders don't do this. If she keeps playing like this, then she will jump ahead of Ruby Mace in the England holding midfield pecking order, as Kira Walsh's understudy, and this is something I don't say lightly. Speaking of holding midfielders defending well, Arsenal really needed one in the dying stages of the game to see it out. Foxy boots the ball long, which gives Arsenal a chance to reset their defence. Pelova half-heartedly puts pressure on Parker, and she gets a smart ball to Anna Patton. You can tell Mariona Caldente is absolutely knackered because she's the one that needs to press Patton here. She doesn't, and Patton gets a free pass to Kirsty Hansen, and Villa are now in behind the Arsenal midfield. Kim Little sees Missy Bokearns but doesn't go and mark her, and Villa almost score from this. If only Renee Slechers had a true defensive-minded holding midfielder she could sub onto the pitch for the last 15 minutes of the game. Oh wait, they let her leave over the summer. Nevertheless, Villa kept pressing high, and Kim Little gives away a foul against Missy Bokearns, and Lynn Wilms is honestly one of the cheekiest players ever as she takes a shot at goal from here, forcing a save from Van Domslaar and giving her team a corner. The bloody nerve from that woman to do this in the dying moments of the game. Villa have a corner, and let's take a look at this picture. Emily Fox is marking Anna Patton, Taylor Hines is marking Lucia Kendall, and Lucy Parker is marked by... Wait, hang on. Is that Caitlin Ford? Yeah, that is Caitlin Ford. I can never understand why a forward is stood marking an opposition centre-back. No forward likes to defend, and I don't get why you'd put a forward to mark a massive aerial threat. Arsenal have Russo marking the back post, Reed watching the back edge of the 6-yard box, Catley watching the front edge of the 6-yard box, and Verbemoy watching the front post. Kim Little is here, and she absolutely doesn't need to be here, because the area she's defending is the same area Katie Reed is defending. She would be better off over here watching Missy Bokearns. As the ball comes in, this one is for Katie Reed to clear, but Kim Little, who, just as a reminder, didn't need to be here, moves to head it away as well, and in doing that, Reed hesitates and doesn't manage to make it to the ball. Meanwhile, Alessia Russo flies in to try and head the ball away, which she absolutely did not need to do, and Caitlin Ford ducks down and avoids trying to head the ball altogether, and this is why you don't place a forward to mark an opposition centre-half. Given Russo's bravery at attempting this header and obvious aerial strength, it would have been better for her to mark Parker instead of Ford anyways. Parker gets to the ball first and gets a rather fortuitous ricochet off Caitlin Ford, and she smashes the ball into the back of the net for a very well-earned equalizer. This was an error in set-piece positioning for Arsenal as Kim Little got in the way. Verbemoy's role could have easily been filled in by Ford, which would allow a centre-half to mark another centre-half. And I think Katie Reed could have been more commanding in the air, as she never shouted to let her teammates know this was her ball to clear. But this is something she'll learn very quickly. But take nothing away from Aston Villa, who absolutely deserved this equalizer. If Villa didn't insist on playing out from the back as well, then they would have won this game and fully earned it. They did really well to counter Arsenal's attack, not that the Gunners really helped themselves with an overall poor quality of decision making. Time and time again, Arsenal got themselves in good positions, but the final ball was lacking. It was a far cry from what we're used to seeing from Renee Slechers and her team. They lacked patience, they lacked ruthlessness, and they were honestly lucky to even come out of this game with a draw. But Aston Villa played incredibly well. They haven't tasted victory yet this season, but if they keep playing like this, they'll definitely start winning some games and find themselves in the right half of the table. After a tough campaign last time out, this is a team you can't sleep on. Natalia Arroyo looks to be doing a fine job with them. If she can sharpen up their attack with the talent she has, then they'll definitely start troubling teams. Watch this space. Aston Villa are on the up.